Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about He Man and the Masters of the Universe. But before we get into it, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell, and leave a comment. We've got an awesome community here, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one takes place on the planet Eternia in the 1960s, when Keldor and his forces attack the capital. Captain Randor informs the Great Council, but they tell him they already know. They also know that once they're gone, Randor is going to rule Eternia in their place as king. Just then, there's an explosion caused by Evil Lyn. As the smoke clears, in walks Keldor, a blue-skinned man with handsome yet devilish features, long black hair, and a goatee. Man-at-Arms yells battle positions. Randor turns to say something to the council, but they're already gone. When he turns back, Keldor is attacking him. They duel, and everyone around them pairs up and duels as well. Randor wins his battle and tells Keldor it's over. But Keldor pulls out a vial of acid and throws it at Randor, who swings his shield, spraying the acid back into Keldor's face. Keldor screams, and Beast Man commands a griffin to carry Keldor to safety. Evil Lyn uses her sorcery to aid Keldor as he recovers from the battle. Randor orders his men to pursue the villains, and after they've left, Randor calls out, but the council members are gone. He does, however, hear the voice of the sorceress. She tells Randor that his men are going to push the forces of evil back to the dark hemisphere of Eternia. Peace will come to the planet for a time, and once that time is up, the hero shall emerge to protect Eternia. Randor asks how he will know this hero, but there's no answer. And that brings us to the main plot, which takes place in the 1980s on the 16th birthday of Randor's blonde-haired son, Prince Adam. He and a red-haired girl named Teela are sparring, but Adam is losing the fight by quite a bit, partially because he's half human. Adam's mother was Marlene Glenn, an astronaut from Earth who came to Eternia by accident, fell in love with Randor, and now the two of them are king and queen. But Eternians are far more powerful than humans, and as such, Adam is perceived as the biggest wimp on the planet. In a culture with such strong medieval overtones, getting beaten by a girl like Teela does nothing to earn the respect of other Eternian men. After the sparring match is over, Man-at-Arms tells Adam he needs to work on his form. According to him, Adam needs to be ready for when the forces of evil one day return. Speaking of which, on the other side of Eternia, there lies an ancient place known as Snake Mountain. It's this massive purple and black volcanic stone structure with a huge petrified world serpent-like statue atop it. The serpent's maw hangs wide open, and lava pours from it like venomous drool. Within Snake Mountain, the villains gather. Those here include Beastman, who's sort of reminiscent of the Wolfman, Evil Lyn, who vaguely resembles a female vampire, Triclops, who's a bit like the Greek Cyclops, but with a more high-tech twist, Trapjaw, who always reminds me a little bit of Frankenstein. He's kind of a cyborg patchwork kind of guy. And they go to the throne room where they bow before their leader, who is the man formerly known as Keldor, who these days goes by the more fitting moniker of Skeletor. Skeletor unveils a device made to bring about a massive earthquake, powerful enough to rupture the mystic wall which separates the dark hemisphere from the light side of Eternium. Skeletor tells his minions the device lacks one final component, a korodite crystal from the deepest reaches of the Sea of Rakash. Just then, the final minion emerges from a pit of putrid fluid. It is Merman, who resembles the creature from the Black Lagoon and is carrying the korodite crystal. Merman gives it to Skeletor, who in turn inserts the crystal into the device. He cackles and says that soon the power of Eternia will be his to command. Meanwhile, the royal palace, Orko is performing in an attempt to entertain everyone gathered for Prince Adam's 16th birthday. But the partygoers are less than appreciative. No sooner than Prince Adam arrives, the earthquake begins, knocking over glasses of wine. At the Mystic Wall, Triclops analyzes things with his visor, and he's right next to where Skeletor's henchmen set up the device. And now the wall has a crack in it that it didn't have before. Triclops' visor rotates around his head, and each of the eyes on the visor gives him a different type of vision. So Triclops checks it out and tells the others what he sees. And the steampunk cyborg known as Trapjaw starts hitting the crack with his robotic arm. After he hits it, some light shines through. So Beastman rides a rhinoceros-like creature into the wall, damaging it a little bit more. Then Evelyn casts a spell, doing the most damage so far. Finally, Skeletor points his Havoc staff at the wall, and it is destroyed. Back at Adam's birthday party, Orko's trying to put on a one-man play about a brave knight rescuing a princess that's been kidnapped. And King Randor and Queen Marlene give each other a knowing look, since their own daughter, Princess Adora, was kidnapped when she and her twin brother Adam were very young. So that means today is her birthday as well, and her parents miss her terribly. Speaking of parents, Tila's mother, the sorceress, contacts Man-at-Arms, the man who raised Tila. Via her telepathy, the sorceress tells Man-at-Arms she needs him to come to Castle Grayskull at once. So he asks Adam to accompany him there. Adam asks why they're going, and Man-at-Arms says that Adam will understand once they get there. Meanwhile, Skeletor, with his hood up and his face cloaked in shadow, goes to where the Council of Elders used to be. He has Trapjaw interrogate a merchant to see where they are, and the merchant says he thought everyone knew. He explains that the elders just vanished one day. As Skeletor continues his search for them, Man-at-Arms and Prince Adam cross the drawbridge entering Castle Grayskull, where Prince Adam is greeted by the sorceress, who tells him she knew this day would come, but she didn't expect it to be so soon. Sorceress tells Adam she is the guardian of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. She further tells him that when the need arose, a hero would emerge who would protect Eternia. Adam at first thinks that Man-at-Arms might be the hero, but Sorceress says that it's Adam who is destined to become He-Man, champion of Grayskull, defender of Eternia. Adam initially thinks that he's too weak to protect himself, let alone anyone else. So he returns to the royal palace only to find out it's been attacked by Skeletor and the forces of evil. So Adam and Man-at-Arms go to where the fighting is, and Adam sees firsthand that the villains are winning. So he runs back to Castle Grayskull, and when Tila sees him running away, she mistakenly assumes he's a coward, abandoning his friends when they need him the most. Orko and Cringer see Adam running away, and they think the same thing, but in their case, they think retreating is a pretty good idea, so they follow him. Adam reaches Grayskull and goes to tell Sorceress what happened, but she already knows and tells him there isn't a moment to lose. Sorceress quickly leads Adam into the castle's lower levels, where they are now literally at the very center of the universe. Surrounding them are tall crystal columns that act a little bit like lightning rods, harnessing the cosmic power of creation itself. The final piece of this equation, the last of these lightning rod-like constructs, is the Sword of Power. Here in this chamber, it glows blue, crackling with cosmic might. Finally, Adam lifts aloft the power sword and calls out the phrase, "By the power of Grayskull, I have the power." And something like iridescent bolts of lightning strike him, coursing through his body, transforming his flesh into the strongest man in the universe. Sorceress uses her staff's telekinesis to move a huge crystalline boulder that Orko and Cringer were hiding behind. And He-Man points the power sword at Cringer, striking him with more of this prismatic cosmic force. And Cringer is transformed into the mighty Battle Cat. Before he leaves, the Sorceress cautions He-Man to keep his identity a secret, and that if the forces of evil learn who he really is, they might harm him and his friends. In a low, commanding tone of voice, He-Man tells her he understands. Then he and Battle Cat bound from crystal to crystal, up and out of the chamber. They hurry back to the scene of the battle where Evil Lyn has summoned a powerful meteor shower. Just as a huge meteor is about to hit Teela, He-Man jumps into its path and punches it with a strength in the 50 AP range, which just blows everyone away. Then He-Man moves to where Skeletor is holding Randor, and He-Man orders Skeletor to release the king at once. Skeletor laughs and asks if he has any idea who he's talking to. Skeletor introduces himself and then fires an energy blast out of the Havoc staff, which He-Man parries, reflecting back at him, knocking Skeletor off of the cliff he was planning to throw Randor off of. Skeletor subs sorcery for flight and gets back up to where He-Man is. Then he subs sorcery for power reserve, which he uses to boost his own strength. Then he and He-Man fight. Skeletor tries to hit He-Man with the Havoc staff, and He-Man in return tries to hit Skeletor with the power sword, and they're fairly evenly matched. So unable to hurt He-Man directly, Skeletor points his staff at King Randor, threatening to kill him. Randor tells He-Man that ending Skeletor once and for all is all that matters. Skeletor tells Randor his selfless sacrifice makes him want to gag. He-Man agrees to let Skeletor go free if he spares Randor's life. So Skeletor begins to ride off on Panther, and then turns and says that he lied. He blasts the rock that Randor was standing on, and Randor falls into the chasm. So He-Man dives in after him, catching Randor and sticking his sword in the side of the cliff. With the villains gone, the heroes lower a rope and help He-Man and Randor back to the top. Which brings us to our epilogue. One day, Superman is flying over Metropolis when a dark storm starts up. Superman thinks it's odd that this storm came out of nowhere, and when he flies into the cloud, he is transported to the planet Eternia. He finds himself deposited in front of Castle Grayskull, where Skeletor and Beastman are standing. Skeletor attacks Superman, who has a weakness to magic. So Superman's chest is actually cut a little. Superman then grabs Skeletor by the wrist, telling him that he doesn't take kindly to this kind of greeting. Skeletor says Superman's strength is impressive, and Superman says he gets that a lot. Then he punches Skeletor in the gut as Beastman jumps on Superman's back. So Superman flies, and Beastman is thrown off. Skeletor then blasts Superman, hurting him with his magic and knocking him back. He-Man rides up on Battle Cat and sees this. Introductions are made, and He-Man knows exactly who Superman is, since his mother is from Earth. And they take on Skeletor together. Skeletor substitutes his sorcery for the control power, forcing Superman to attack He-Man. Superman rolls a 10 and a 2, which hits. He-Man takes 17 points of damage. He-Man then hits Superman, rolling a 5 and a 6, and Superman takes 17 points of damage. The two heroes are perfectly matched. Superman then rolls a 1 and a 7, which is a miss. He-Man swings back, rolling a 10 and a 4, which hits with one column shift, doing 20 damage. Superman hits, rolling a 10 and a 2, doing another 17 damage. He-Man then rolls double threes, and then a 1 and a 3, which is actually a miss. Then Superman rolls a 10 and a 4, and He-Man is briefly knocked out, but just barely. Skeletor then orders Superman to break down the drawbridge door of Castle Grayskull. As Superman is flying towards it, he has enough free will that he uses heat vision at another target, which distracts Skeletor just long enough for the mind control spell to be disrupted, and Superman flies in a different direction. He-Man recovers and gets up, and before Superman can attack him, Skeletor decides to sub-sorcery for teleportation, allowing him to escape. Superman asks He-Man if that happens often, and He-Man says that unfortunately it does. Superman says his farewells and then flies up, up, and away, and to his surprise, Eternia is at the center of the universe, which just so happens to be where the planet Oa is located too. So in our game world, Eternia and Oa are both one astronomical unit away from the star known as Sto-Oa, also known as Pyramus. They are on opposite sides of the star, much the same way that Earth and Counter-Earth are on opposite sides of Sol. So point being, it's very easy for Superman to fly home from here, so he does. And while we do see Eternia many more times after this, that would be a story for another day. We enjoyed this one. Hopefully you did too. If so, as always, smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell, and leave a comment. From all of us here at the longest running superhero role-playing game on Earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.